Hello and welcome to my bookshelf. Today we're going to talk about 26 books that I read between mid-September to end of November. So everything I read for the Bloom and Readathon, everything I read, period. Real quick, thank you to everyone who was so kind in the last video. My health still is not being that kind to me, so we're gonna be a little quieter, a little low-key in this video. She's in a migraine hangover. She's trying to form sentences. Before we dive into the last reading review of 2021, let's hear it from today's sponsor, Book of the Month. As you already know, Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing book service for readers like me and like you if you're watching this video, I assume. What Book of the Month does is promotes new and emerging authors to help readers find books that they're bound to love. Their team sifts through hundreds of books and then gives us a monthly selection of curated new and released titles. This means you can spend more time devouring stories and less time researching what stories you should read. I genuinely love how varied the genres are each and every month. It is an honest challenge to try and find something that you will not enjoy. But my favorite part of Book of the Month is that it is risk-free, meaning that you can push pause on any month you wish for any reason at all without being penalized. If you have a US-based shipping address, you can get your first book from Book of the Month for $5 using the code JOLLY. $5. Aside from the 5 books that we are about to delve into, there are so many add-ons that you can choose as well. And if it's your first time, you can pick an add-on for your first book for $5. This includes The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green, which is one of my favorite books. Here it is on my favorite shelf, $5. I had to pay almost $30. It's chock full of poignant and clever essays from life, death, love, and Canadian geese. The Price of a Coffee. It's a Christmas miracle. I said this video was gonna be low energy, but that day. 5. Anyway, without further ado, let's dive into the 5 books that are picked for December. Starting with A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. This debut thriller follows our protagonist Chloe Davis, who wonders if she can rely on her grip of reality when a serial killer emerges with an eerily familiar pattern. The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. This romance pick of the month follows 2 twins that switch places just days before Christmas. Is this a recipe for disaster or just what they need to get their life back on track? Olga Dies Dreaming by Xochitl Gonzalez. This contemporary fiction is the tale of a wedding planner grappling with her social ambitions, absent mother, and Puerto Rican roots, all in the wake of Hurricane Maria. A History of Wild Places by Shea Earnshaw. This magical realism selection of the month is a story about fairy tales, our fear of the dark, and losing yourself within the wilderness of your mind. Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. This memoir is the story of a childhood defined by the looming absence of an incarcerated father. I understand the decision is hard this December. I am so excited to dive into all of these. Let me know which book you would pick or are going to pick when you click the link in the description box below and use the code JOLLY to get your first book for $5. I can't get over it. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video, Book of the Month. Let's continue with the reading review. So, these are the 26 books that I read over the past couple of months. Let us try our best to discuss all of them before a migraine hits, shall we? Yes. The first one, The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This isn't part of my ad read, okay? Thanks to Book of the Month, I genuinely have been starting to get into romance. I used to say I wasn't a romance reader, now I dabble. And I gotta say, this one was fun. I had fun with it. I even enjoyed the steamy scene, which I usually don't. People say that this is a Kylo Ren fan fiction. Someone commented on my Goodreads review saying that. I googled it. Star Wars, okay. I don't care. People saying this book isn't good because it started as a fan fiction. It gives me the ick. She likes to write. She writes about things she likes. Who am I to judge? I don't like Star Wars. Star Wars wasn't in this book. And I had fun. It gets 4 stars. I had fun. I don't care. Her head hurting is making her feral. Up next, The Doctor Who Fooled the World, Andrew Wakefield's War and Vaccines by Brian Deere. This is a very recent nonfiction about how and why the anti-vax movement exists. It reads like a documentary, which is nice if you're not a typical nonfiction reader. In summation, Andrew Wakefield was fraudulent. His entire family was fraudulent. He forged his studies. He really only thought that maybe perhaps one vaccine out of the hundreds that we have might cause one thing, and now everyone hates all vaccines. Yay! I gave it 4 stars. Up next is Pew by Catherine Lacey. This is one of our Pocket Pages book club books. She's small, she's damn good. On Goodreads, she has like 3.5 or something stars. I gave it 5. We're jumping ahead. This is about someone, question mark, waking up in the pew in a church in a small town. Nobody can determine where they came from. Nobody can even land on the same page of what they look like, who they are. They name this voiceless person Pew, and basically Pew gets thrown from household to household until the neighborhood decides what they want to do with them. I thought thought this book was thought-provoking. I thought this book was ambiguous in all the right ways. It's mostly dialogue. It raises a lot of great moral questions. I'm torn on if I want to make it a favorite or not, but I definitely gave it 5 stars. This is a 5-star book for me, and if anyone has read other things by Catherine Lacey, please let me know what I should start with, because they're all so different, and I know I want to read more from her, but I don't know where to start. So if you demand a plot when it comes to a book, I don't think you'd like this. If you demand a clear-cut ending, I don't think you would like this book, but I really like this book. 5 stars. Next, I read Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I understand that the term classic has many genres under the umbrella. Does that matter to me? No. Have I found a single classic that I can subjectively enjoy? No. I thought it was difficult to follow. I thought it was clunky. I was extremely bored. I didn't like it. But there were some quotes in there that hit me, so I gave it 2, but my brain is too small. Next, I read the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy by V.E. Schwab. I feel like this author comes up with such cool ideas, but then doesn't deliver. When you hear about what a book is about, The Invisible Life of Betty LaRue, for example, you're like, wow, where is this going to take me? Borderline nowhere, most of the time. This is a fantasy trilogy about multiple Londons across different times, and there's magic, and I caught myself rooting for the bad guy and not the rich people. Is anybody surprised? I gave the first book 3 stars and the other ones 2. Mathematically speaking, that's like, what, 2.5? I don't know. I'm failing statistics for a reason. Next, we have Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. I was so hyped for this one. It's one of the 2 books in my entire life that I've pre-ordered. She was excited. Oh, she was excited. And in the end, it was okay for me. I didn't feel like the characters were as strong as his other book. It was still good. It was still all right. I liked reading it. This is about a grumpy man who takes work too seriously, dies, and is in the middle of crossing over to the other side, and he's in this kind of limbo tea shop place, and he falls in love with the man who works at said tea shop place, and that's cute. There are some cute moments. I don't know, they just landed in the middle for me. It was just okay. I gave it 3 stars. My hype was just a little too big for this one. Next, I read Lobizona by Romina Garber. This is technically a young adult fantasy. Hearing those 2 genres side by side typically makes my toes curl, but this was good. This is about a girl and her mom. They're from Argentina. They're living in the United States, undocumented, but her main character is a werewolf but doesn't know it, and so we have this beautiful combination of real life trials and tribulations and themes eloquently meshed together with this fun and challenging magical world. I just had such a good time with this one, and there's a second one, and the covers are equally gorgeous, and I just can't wait to go back to this place. I liked it so much. It was just fun. It was easy to dive into. That's hard to do. 4 stars. All right, next was A Million Things by Emily Spur. I had a very different impression of what this book was going to be. When I heard 11-year-old girl wakes up to her mother not being in the house, and so we're thrown into the 58 days that she spends without any guardianship and her relationship with her neighbor, I thought it was going to be about 2 kids living in the woods. I don't know why. Rather, this is about a little girl who befriends her elderly neighbor who suffers with hoarding, and them trying to help detangle the mess that is each other's lives. My Sunday book club and I read this, and we had a little bit of trouble rating it. We landed on 3.5, rounding up to 4. It was easy to read. If you're looking for something that isn't a chore and has some emotional moments, this book has it. Give it a shot if you want. Next, we have another book that I feel bad about not liking, and that is Misery by Stephen King. Okay. I hated this. This is my least favorite book of this year. If I could have given it 0 stars, if I could have given it negative stars, dude, this is about a writer gets in a car crash and wakes up in the house of his #1 fan who's nursing him back to health, and the #1 fan is mentally deranged. It's mostly just him thinking the same thoughts. Why is it this long? You have to read his book in the middle of the book, and it's so boring, and the real life parts are already so boring. There are so many aspects that did not age well. I didn't think it was scary. I didn't like any of the characters. I just did not care. I'm sorry. This is me holding back, and I still feel like I'm being rude. No. 1 star. No. Okay, let's fix the vibe. Let's make this better. We got a good one next. They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. Ooh, if you want kill all men energy, if you want girl power, if you want a thriller that has you just turning every page, every time a chapter came to a close, it's just cliffhanger after what's gonna happen next, after what's gonna happen next. The twist got me, was not seeing that at all. Basically, this is about a professor on a college campus who murders rapists. She murders rapists. So it's like Dexter had a baby with promising young woman. I really recommend this one. The ending left me so energized. It was clever. I gave it 4 stars. I couldn't recommend it more. Next, we have the Xhex by Erin Sterling. This is about a family of witches, and our protagonist curses her ex, and then years later they meet up and romance ensues. Since I'm pretty new to this genre, I don't know all the tropes, but I know the whole rekindling an old flame is one of them. It was a fun space to be in. It was especially fun to read this in October. It didn't necessarily fall flat, but nor did it blow me away. It's right in the middle. It was a fun little read. It's easy to get into. 3 stars. Next. Oh, this book's in my backpack. Gender by Ivan Illich. I was assigned this book for my history of philosophy class. I had to give a presentation and I have to write a paper on it. I'm not gonna rate it because it was for school. This book was written by a Catholic priest in the 80s, and he is both celebrating gender roles and mourning their loss, as he feels that it's extremely crucial to recognize the different roles that gender plays across culture in order for anthropology and history to be accurate. Of course, it didn't age that well, seeing as he sees gender as a binary and not the spectrum that we understand it today. I don't know. Homework. Next, I read Born to Bleed by Ryan C. Thomas. This is the 2nd book after The Summer I Died. The Summer I Died being the most unsettling book that I've ever read. I lost sleep over it. It creeped me out. The descriptions were very vivid. So I instantly subscribed to the notion that I will be reading all 3 of the books in the trilogy. I still will, but the feelings are very different. First of all, every and all trigger warning when it comes to gross things that men can do to a person. Just cover the whole board. And in this one, he finds himself in yet another torturous adventure where he has to save people once again. The twist at the ending was just so cheesy. The title Born to Bleed was said out loud, and it's at the point now where it's so bad it's good, and I will be reading the 3rd one. This is the male gaze, you know what I mean? And here I am partaking. Here we are. Does that make any sense? Absolutely not. I don't want to spoil it. I don't think you're gonna read these, but if you want, brace yourselves. I gave it 3 stars. Next, Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is about a couple whose marriage is deteriorating, and so the wife invites the 2 of them to go on this retreat that she won in a raffle in this romantic cabin in the snow, and creepy stuff happens. Personally, I was clinging on to every word, and the twist got me so good that I ran to the next room to tell Lawrence every detail of the story. I was invested. This was good. If you like domestic thrillers, you like to be a little creeped out but also clinging onto the drama, Rock, Paper, Scissors. I gave it 4 stars. The final books are all of the books that I read for the Blue and Readathon. Once again, thank you so much for reading with us on the Blue and Readathon. It was so much fun. We're hoping to do it every single year, every month of November. Clear out your TBR before the year ends. This is what I read. First, Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. This is about 2 semi-estranged sisters who reconnect and commit insurance fraud to save one of the sisters' lives. It paints a really honest picture of relationships, specifically sisterhood. The dialogue was so realistic. Long Bright River is another great book that covers sisterhood. So if you have any other books about siblings, preferably sisters, because that's what I have, please let me know your favorites down below because I can't get enough, man. And one final time, please, let's appreciate little hands on the cover and on the pages because oh my god. 4 stars. Up next, we have Crying in H Mart by Michelle Sonner. This book is an autobiography about Michelle's complicated relationship with her mother and how it gets even more complicated when she is diagnosed and then dies from cancer. I'm at a loss for words. I loved this book so much. It's the only one that made me cry. A couple of books have made my eyes wet, but I was ugly sobbing over this book. There's a whole video about it. There is this illustrious entanglement about how complicated family can be, especially when it comes to connecting to your cultural roots, language and understanding, and it was so painful, but it was so beautiful. I love it so much. That's all. Back to the favorite shelf you go, you beautiful, beautiful noodle book. All right, next. Night Sky with Exit Wounds by Ocean Vuong. This is Ocean Vuong's debut poetry book. He wrote On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which is one of my favorite books. I'm not a poetry connoisseur. I don't know a lot about poetry. I like when words are put together in a pretty way. He does that. I liked it. I didn't give it a rating because I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to poetry, but it was nice. Next, Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is a book about 2 friends who once went to a boarding school, went their separate ways, and over a decade later, one of the friends writes the other one saying she has a job for her, and when that friend arrives, she discovers that her friend invited her to babysit her two step-twins that spontaneously combust into flames. Now, it is so rare to have a book that immediately lays out the stakes and the characters and their intentions so effortlessly. By the first couple of pages, I was immediately invested, endlessly interested. It was just so well done. I would say this was a 4.5 rounded up to a 5. The ending could have hit harder, I guess. I liked this one a lot. And if you're looking to have fun, here you go. Up next, I read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This is an indigenous story that covers a lot of great Native American folklore. I struggled greatly connecting with the writing, which makes a lot of sense because the author said himself that the story was told in a way that you would sit down and tell a story verbally. And this rang true because a lot of people who read this for the Pocket Pages book club said that the audiobook was far superior than reading it. I personally can't follow audiobooks. My audio processing does not allow me to just listen to them, and if I am listening to a book while reading the pages, my brain goes too fast and I can't do audiobooks. I think if you read the synopsis for this one and it interests you and you can do audiobooks, I think that's the way to go. And a commenter very gracefully let me know that I should watch some reviews by indigenous people, and so I did. And I'll leave some of my favorites in the description box below because I think they did a really great job of celebrating these pages that I personally had struggled connecting with. My subjective reaction to these books are not the be all end all. They're not the most important. I say this all the time, but just because I don't like a book doesn't mean that you're not allowed to or shouldn't like a book. So please watch the reviews that are linked down below to get a more diverse understanding of these pages. Next, A Place for Everything, My Mother, Autism, and Me by Anna Wilson. So this follows Anna throughout her life with her mother and how complicated her relationship with her was growing up, seeing as her mom wasn't diagnosed with autism until the last 2 years of her life. It was a lot more negative than I anticipated. I thought there would be a lot more understanding throughout the book, but autism isn't mentioned until the last 30 or so pages. I wish there was a better balance of understanding and context throughout the book. However, I really do appreciate how honest it was because, for example, even though I love the show Love on the Spectrum, I feel like it kind of further complicates how hard it is to get that diagnosis, because if you don't fall into this cute little box, you won't know what you're actually suffering with until it's too late. And that happens to so many people, especially women. So for that, I really appreciated the insight of this book. And I suppose that's all I'll say for now, but thank you, Anna Wilson, for writing this book. I have a lot of dog-eared pages. It sparked a great conversation in my family, so thank you. Ooh, up next, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is technically a science fiction book about a bunch of women who are in a cage underground. They don't know why. Their captors don't speak to them, and eventually they break out and try to make sense of the world around them. This book is like a combination of The Giver and Pew, that book we talked about earlier. So if you didn't like Pew, I don't think you would like this one, but I loved Pew and I loved this book. It was so thought-provoking. It was so simple. It's very short. It's right to the point. It left all of the questions that needed to be unanswered. This is one that just left me speechless and got me thinking, and I'm still thinking about it. So it has a place on my favorite shelf. This one got 5 stars. So good. Next, A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. One of my favorite books is I Kill Giants, and this book is basically I Kill Giants with sprinkles of The Alchemist. This is about a little boy with a sick mother, and a monster comes to his window one day saying he's going to tell him 3 stories, and at the end, the little boy will have to tell him his true story. It just gives you that feeling. This one was so powerful and it hurt, but in all the ways that I suppose I needed to hurt that day. It's cathartic, it's real, it's helpful, it's really easy to read, it's pretty short, there's pictures. Pick it up. That's all I can say. It got 5 stars, it's sitting on my favorite shelf. Can't recommend it more. Next, Stone Fruit by Lili. This is about a queer couple that often babysits one of the partner's nieces. You're just thrown right into their lives like a fly on the wall, and you see some of their most intimate and difficult moments. It's whimsical but heartbreaking. It's simple but difficult. I think it covers relationships really well, not just romantic, but to your sister or to a child. It was exactly what I needed when I read it. If you just like reading about relationships that are honest, I think you would like this one. Whether you like graphic novels or not, maybe this could get you into them. 4 stars. And finally, The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating by Elizabeth Tova Bailey. Oh, this one nourished my soul. This is about a chronically ill woman whose caretaker brings her a woodland snail because she thought it would be nice and might keep her company, and oh, did it. It really takes you from the big picture of the giant world that is so overwhelming to the tiniest, cutest little slimy friend. Reading these pages, I could hear that snail munching on them mushrooms. The parallels she draws between this gastropod pod, and her living in the pod of her bedroom was gorgeous and shocking. How did she do this? Perhaps this one's not for you if you're not obsessed with snails like I am, but I really loved learning about snails because while she's hanging out with this new friend, picking up books and learning about them, there's all these great snail facts. It was just pure. This is the most pure, wholesome book. So that's it. Those are all 26 books that I've read over the past couple of months. I told myself this would be low energy, but books always get me going. I'm gonna take it easy for the rest of my weekend. Thank you so much for all of your patience and all of your love. Holy guacamole, it is overwhelming in the best way. Thank you in advance for being understanding to the change of upload schedule. I'm gonna see you every other week from here on out. The Discord is alive and well. The Patreon designs and all that jazz. The book club, it'll all stay the same. I just have to spend a little bit less time in front of a screen and more time relaxing and living. I hope you spend a lot of time relaxing and living over the next week. I will see you in 2 Sundays. Thank you so much for Book of the Month for sponsoring. Thank you for clicking. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being nice. Bye!